Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Speak Plainly podcast, where we speak plainly about things that matter. I am your host, Owl Medicine, and I apologize for being gone for a couple of weeks. I needed a break. I visited family. I was gone for a week, and now I'm back at it. I hope that this Monday is a wonderful Monday for you. And in today's episode, the thing that matters that we're going to talk about is a phrase that I heard a long time ago. And when I first heard it, I was like, the fuck? And that phrase is, the opposite of depression is connection. I don't know if you've heard that before. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. The opposite of depression is connection. But we're going to do what we normally do when we discuss anything. We're going to look at the biological substrates that underpin this cute little quip. So, if you're like me 10 years ago when I first heard this and basically forgot it because it didn't make any sense, it was just completely foreign. And if you're like me and that's the case for you and you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're like, that doesn't make sense. We're going to get there. We've talked a lot about polyvagal theory and its different applications and ways that we can use our understanding of the vagus nerve in polyvagal theory and the autonomic nervous system to understand human behaviors. We're going to continue that theme today by looking at polyvagal theory and what it has to do with depression and connection. If you haven't listened to the polyvagal episode, go back and listen to that. It's a great episode. If you have and you're ready to dive in, let's get started. You might be the type of person who hears the opposite of depression is connection and shove it off. Like, whatevs. That doesn't make any sense. How in the world, especially if you have depression and you've had it for a long time, then you probably don't like people. So how in the world is it, and that's the way I felt. How in the world are people supposed to make me less depressed? People are the reason I'm depressed. People suck. The world sucks. There's tons of shit wrong with everything, and it's pretty much entirely people's fault. So how in the hell are you going to tell me that connection, I'm assuming you mean to people, and I do, is supposed to help me not be depressed? And we're going to get there. And the answer is polyvagal theory. The answer is, unfortunately, whether you like people or don't, you're designed to like people. And any tool that is not used as it is designed to be used for the purpose in which it was intended will deteriorate or break much faster than if it was used as intended. And our biology needs to be used as it's intended. That's why we have to constantly stay moving, and that's to stay healthy. That's why we have to constantly stay breathing. Well, there are certain what are called species expected stimuli in every species, and ours, one of them, is connection. And the way that we have done that for millennia has been through small groups. We find our little clan and we stick with them, 20, 60 people, and we're good. That's enough to have all the conflict you want, all the resolution that you want, all the closeness, all the enemies and the frenemies. I feel like that's a good size. And it's a good size because that's the size that we co-evolved to kind of live in. So we're biologically predispositioned to think, act, behave, and need certain things. Think, act, and behave in certain ways and need certain things. One of those things is connection. But what does that have to do with depression? Well, when you look at polyvagal theory and Stephen Porges's exploration there. The opposite of fight and flight is not rest and digest. We talk about fight and flight, rest and digest as sympathetic, parasympathetic, but we're missing a really important piece. Social connection is parasympathetic. At least it's supposed to be. Those of us with trauma, those of us with depression, connection, sometimes not that. But it's supposed to be. And it can be. We've all been burned. There's no denying that. You can't get through life without getting hurt. And usually hurt pretty bad in one way or another. And when we get hurt, it's natural to want to protect ourselves. So we remove the thing that hurts us. If we got mauled by a lion, we probably wouldn't want to be friends with lions. But we didn't get mauled by lions, did we? We got abused, neglected, rejected, assaulted, molested, beaten, raped, lied to, manipulated by people. That's who hurt us. And there's another phrase that goes along with this that I'd like to interject now. And I've heard this as well, that the solve for depression is deep rest. And I want to say right now that that's probably not going to be helpful. It could be, especially if you have connection. Then if you have connection, if you maintain that, deep rest is absolutely awesome. But for people who don't like people, for people who are antisocial, for people who struggle with depression, who don't like being around other people, whether that's because other people suck or because they don't want to rub their depression off on them, because they don't want to bring down the vibe, whatever the reason, if you're not around people and you try to do the deep rest thing, there's a good chance you're just going to wind up isolating, and that makes everything worse. Because again, the opposite of depression is connection. So, enough of that. What is this the underlying biology? If the opposite of fight and flight is not rest and digest, what is it? Well, it turns out that we actually have 3 branches of our vagus nerve, and 2 of them are parasympathetic and only 1 of them is sympathetic. We think of rest and digest as the parasympathetic function, as like the quintessential pinnacle parasympathetic function. But it's not. Because if it's just a parasympathetic activation and there is no socialization with that parasympathetic activation, you freeze and fawn. That system that we're relying on, that is purely parasympathetic, is a system that is designed for immobilization. Not like immobilization like I'm drunk on the beach after too many Long Islands and I can't move, but immobilization in playing dead because a bear has run up on you. That kind of immobilization. The immobilization that stops peristalsis, which is the movement of the intestines moving food along the tract. That kind of immobilization. The immobilization that stops digestion. The immobilization that slows down the production of acids in your stomach because food is not important when you need to immobilize for safety. And that is the reason that we immobilize. We do it for safety. I believe that depression is a natural body state response seeking safety. So if a person decides to try to combat their depression with deep rest without considering connection and sociability, what is likely to happen, because the nervous system circuit that they're depending on is this dorsal vagus nerve, which is about immobilization. If you do that, you've got a good chance. It's not guaranteed, but you got a good chance that your digestion will suffer, that you get IBS or Crohn's or fibromyalgia for a long time, if you do it long enough, I mean. And without social connection, we wind up bouncing from depression up to anxiety, because that ventral vagus, which is also parasympathetic and is in charge of the socialization, that connection part, that's what acts as a dimmer switch. If you look at our nervous system and you're looking at the whole circuit as a schematic, as if it was a blueprint of like where you could flip things on, flip things off, the parasympathetic and sympathetic in the back of the body, not the ones in the face, which is the ventral, and that's the one that's in charge of the socialization. The ones in the back of the body are on-off. That's it. That is parasympathetic inactivation or sympathetic activation, and they are exclusively for responding to threats and providing safety in the presence of a threat, or a perceived threat, I should say. So without the connection, you're only going to be in immobilization or mobilization. And you can bounce back and forth between those for a good long time. You know, honestly, you really can. I have. You can bounce back and forth between those for a good long time and still function, because you get your down and you get your up, and that's a lot of what your body is dependent upon. But in the down, you're still extra stressed, and in the up, you're extra stressed. And it's these are the people that when you take a vacation, you need a vacation from your vacation, because you are the problem. It's not your job. It's not your work. It's you. You're the fucking problem. And the reason you're the problem is because of the life that you've had, and you're not dealing with it. It's not your fault, but you're still the problem now. And that's my whole goal in life, is to try to get people to a place where they are no longer the impediment in their lives. I'm going to repeat that again, because I really want you to hear it. I want people to get to a place in their own healing where they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are not the impediment in their own lives. And in this case, if we are not forcing ourselves to try and socialize, we are the impediment, period. Because only you can do that for you. It's not your fault. I know this is harsh, but it's true. We only have on and off for if we're not properly socialized. And I know that always sounds weird. It makes me laugh every time I say it, because that's what we talk about with dogs. But you've heard me say it on here before. Proper socialization is kind of that's the key. That's the key for all of us, for all mammals, it seems. But humans definitely don't seem to be any different. It might even be more important for us. But if we're not connected, we have only two choices: anxiety and depression. Because we are either immobilized or we are hypermobilized, because it is that connection, this ventral vagus part of us, that allows the dimmer switch for us to access what we talked about in the Polyvagal podcast episode, the blended states. When we have access to blended states, that's where we actually reach rest and digest. Because, like I said, you don't actually digest when you're immobilized. Everything shuts down. And when you're mobilized, you don't get good digestion, because everything is mobilized to get you away. And there are much more important things to do with your energy and your nutrients in your body than digest whatever salad you just had. So if we do not force ourselves to socialize, it's our fault. And I know people suck, as well as many and more than most. But I still love people. Well, individuals at least. It's that whole, a committee will make a decision dumber than any of its members. You get a group of people together and that groupthink happens, and suddenly everybody gets knocked down like a few IQ points, and it's sad and it's frustrating. But if you talk to individuals, you're going to be good. You'll find that individuals are much better than they are as a group. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at blended states again. Blended states are rest and digest on the parasympathetic end. And on the more sympathetic end, the blended state of this connection plus sympathetic is sex and play, fun, enjoyment, competition, cooperation. Those things are only allowed, they're only accessible when we have access to our blended states. And the blended states we only have access to when we have access to our dimmer switch or our connection. So I know exactly how, at least for me, how hard it is, especially when in one of these deep, dark nights of the soul that comes occasionally with depression. And if you're depressed, this probably isn't helpful for you right now. But somewhere, as you eventually crawl out of it, hopefully you'll be able to remember these words and try to find yourself some community. Try to find some folks to be with, to love, to appreciate, and to appreciate you. Because if you can do that, you got a good chance of staving off the next bout, at least for longer. We know that with depression, once you've had 3 major depressive episodes, you've got a really good chance of continuing to have them every so often for essentially the rest of your life. But everything can change. And this is something I really want to change. Because community and connection has fundamentally changed my life. More than anything else. More than anything I've learned. More than any school I've gone to. More than any class or lecture or YouTube video or movie. No therapy. None of it has been as good as my community. And therapy is a great place to start. Thank God. I thank God for my therapists. I've had a few. Thank God for them, and thank God for their connection. But that's what it is. It is about connection. The opposite of depression is connection. And we can connect, hopefully we do, with our therapist. And in fact, they have done meta-analyses. They've done lit reviews where they looked at who did well through therapy. And it was always because of the connection was the biggest factor. How connected did the therapist and the client feel? How well did they get along? How well did they vibe? It was never about where the therapist went to school or how broken or unbroken a person was or what their age was or how long they'd been practicing. It was about the connection. It's really that simple. It's really as simple as we are designed with an on and an off switch. And that's how we were for about 100 million years. And then we eventually developed our ventral vagus nerve, which is about connection. And it connects the deep parts of the brain to the striated muscles of the face and to the SA node of the heart. And that is our dimmer switch. So this is not this whole depression. The opposite of depression is connection is not just some hippie woo-woo free love phrase. It's not a esoteric concept. It is mechanical. It is genuinely mechanical. We are impressive machines. Machines undersells it, but that's in a way what we are. And in our machine, the wiring is our nervous system. And our nervous system is built in a certain way. And it's built in a certain way for a certain purpose, to function in a certain way. And now we know this. Now we have the science that proves these things. And so we can't just dismiss it as hippie woo-woo crap anymore. Now we really need to understand that it's not just conceptual. This is literally mechanical in our bodies. It's mechanical, it's biological. We have a system where sympathetic and parasympathetic activation, and all of this is the autonomic nervous system, right? So it's all subconscious. So I'm not concerned with what you consciously think about it, because this is the way that we're wired. It's true whether you like it or not. It's true whether you believe it or not. We have a dorsal parasympathetic inactivation circuit where we become inactivated in order to find safety. We play dead. Then we have in the front of that the sympathetic activation branch. And that is the fight or flight, trying to activate to find safety, either run away or fight the threat. And then as we grew from reptiles to mammals, we started living in groups and in colonies. And then, in the presence of a threat, we had a third option. We could just scoot closer to the group. A snake doesn't have that option, unless they're a baby, and they're like, and with all the little baby friends. But for the most part, most reptiles are solitary, whereas us mammals are not. And that ventral vagus is uniquely mammalian. So we don't have any other option. We don't have any other way to be. We were designed to function in a specific way, and this is the way that we function. The opposite of depression is connection. The opposite of anxiety is connection. It's both. The opposite of depression is connection. The opposite of anxiety is not depression. It's connection. That's just the counterpoint, the flip-flop, the on-off, on-off, on-off. But if you actually want it to be gone, to be truly gone and opposed, the way that you oppose anxiety and depression is through connection. It's through community. It's through finding a friend that you can talk to about anything, about dumb shit, about deep shit, about happy shit. That's how we combat it. And I know trauma does a number on us, and we become biologically predispositioned to rely on our survival mechanisms, that parasympathetic and sympathetic inactivation or activation, ignoring the social bonding, because we had years of our lives, sometimes decades, where when we attempted to connect to, say, our caregivers, and we didn't find safety in that, whether they were busy working or whether they were depressed, whether they were drunk, whether they were our abusers, any of those reasons, any single one of them will disrupt our automatic desire to connect with our group, with our colony, and rely on our own individual survival mechanisms. And that's what fight and flight are. That's what freeze and fawn are. They're survival mechanisms. So if you struggle with depression, or if you struggle with anxiety, connection is your solution. Find somebody, anybody to talk about, to genuinely talk about, and to talk with, who genuinely is interested in you, that makes you feel seen, that makes you feel whole, that makes you feel held and loved, in whatever way that is for you. If you're still super antisocial, then find somebody who insults you in just the right way that you can become friends. I still have friends that are that way. You know, I was over hanging out with some friends last night and cracking up talking about it. I work really hard to be kind and present and understanding and forgiving and all of that. And the reason I try hard is because I'm a bitch. I am. I'm a bitch. That's my natural response is in most situations, many situations, is petty and quippy and like, it's not exactly what I think is going to add positivity to the world, but it's still the way that I am, and I don't want to add more of that to the world. But that's the way that, like, that's a big piece of me. It's slowly getting smaller, but it's a piece of me. And if it weren't for my friends like Thu, who we're just awful to each other. We're genuinely just awful to each other. We just give each other shit all the time. That's all we've done since junior high. It's been almost 20 years now. And we tried being nice to each other one time and we both almost vomited, so we went back to our usual. But that's connection. Like, it doesn't have to be all butterflies and rainbows. If that's not what makes you happy, then fuck butterflies and rainbows. Go do death metal and dungeons. Who gives a shit? But you gotta find connection. You gotta find somebody, some way, somewhere that's like, yo, they get me. And that's it. That's all it is they get me. That's the connection that you're looking for. So if you're depressed, find somebody who gets you. Find somebody else who's depressed. Maybe find somebody who's not in a depressive episode at the moment, because that's just probably not going to work out. And actually, neither of you are probably going to leave your depressive episode to find each other. But if you can find somebody with similar diagnoses, that's not a bad way to start. Not in my book. I think that's just fine. So there it is. I don't want to beat this horse anymore. It's really a simple concept. The opposite of depression is connection. And I just wanted to come on here to talk about that, because when I first heard that, I was like, fuck you. The hell? People are the reason I'm depressed. Fuck out of here. I've cursed a lot in this episode. I apologize if that offends you, but hey, it's on the label. But anyway, I wanted to speak to those folks like me who were like, really, 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 really? You're going to tell me that the people who depress me are somehow supposed to save me? No, that is not what I'm telling you. That is not what I'm telling you at all. What I'm telling you is you need to find somebody who gets you. And I know that that's really hard. And I know that you believe that there isn't anybody. But there is. There is. Somewhere near you, there is somebody who will get it. Maybe not completely. Guaranteed, almost. Not completely. But if they get it enough, that's what matters. Find your tribe. Find your vibe. Connect with it. And say goodbye to your anxiety and your depression. Not immediately. It takes time. But you will be able to. You'll be able to wave that shit bye-bye. Because the opposite of depression is connection. So is the opposite of anxiety. Thank you so much for listening today. I really appreciate you guys. I hope this episode was good for you. I hope that if you are somebody who struggles with depression, or you know somebody who struggles with depression, just find a way to connect with them. You don't need to drag them out. You don't need to make them do anything. Just make them feel seen. Make them feel understood. That's it. Make them feel understood. Be like, oh, yeah, you're depressed? Okay, well, you want me to crawl into the cave with you? Makes you feel understood. Like, oh, you a sad bitch, huh? All right. That's fine. You can be a sad bitch. I'll catch you a little bit later. Maybe that doesn't work for you. That shit works for me. God bless my Midwest background and that thick skin. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. And I hope this was helpful. And remember, stay curious, stay uncomfortable.